talk about in your book, as a young child, sometimes, when we're asked, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we have these lofty ideas, and sometimes our parents, unbeknownst to them, kind of shut it down because, it may be far-fetched.
Mhm. Yeah, that was in the very first chapter. That's in the life chapter. Because, for me, let me just start by saying Book of Jewels was supposed to come out 8 years ago. I was literally writing that book 8 years ago. And it was supposed to be my second book. It was supposed to come out in probably not 8 years, I should say 2015, but I started writing it about 7-8 years ago. But it was a life chapter. I wanted to try to isolate the moment that I started to question my purpose and my calling, and I wanted to pinpoint the moment that I started to second guess myself, and I became afraid of taking risks, because I've always been a risk taker in terms of my career. But there was a moment, and I realized through writing that chapter that there wasn't a single moment. It was a collective of things that caused me to pause and to second guess things. And those things were the voices in the world, whether it's my family, my friends, you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's easy to get distracted by the people that are around you. And at that time, I didn't have a lot of entrepreneurs around me or artists around me. The people that I was mostly around were people who worked 9-to-5 jobs. So they didn't know what it was like to reach and risk in that way, the way that I was. And so I was able to collect all of those things. And then part of what I understood or realized too was some of the setbacks, or what we call failures, were part of the reason that I became afraid to take bigger steps or more steps, because it's painful to have a car repossessed. It's embarrassing. It's painful to have to go and live with one of your friends and you're well into your 30s, but the vision was bigger than me.
Yeah.
It was bigger than me. And I remember reading a couple pages of Barack Obama's book, The Audacity of Hope. And I remember reading a few pages in there, and he was talking about being a junior senator and really wanting to make an impact in policy, in politics in Chicago. And he was driving around in this little beat up car, and I don't know if you saw Becoming. It's on Netflix. It's a documentary.
Oh yeah.
They talk about it briefly on there, but he was driving around in a little beat up car. There was a hole in the floor of the car. So as he's driving, or as they're driving, you could see the ground passing. And so he's trying to affect change. And nothing was happening. And I write about this in the book of Jewels. There were moments where he was trying to, push legislation, but it would never come to pass. And so he was starting to get discouraged. And what I know now, and what I see now when I look at his story and I look at my own journey, it wasn't about the everyday efforts that he was making. It was about the collection. It was about the total vision. It was about his intentions, and his aspirations and his life purpose. Because the prize wasn't about him affecting change just in Chicago. The prize was becoming president. But you can't always see that when you're in it. So that was what it was for me. And so I remember just being very nervous about, I would have these great ideas and I would talk myself out of them because I had a bank account overdrawn $660 before. So those things kind of creep in, and then you have your friends, people who love you and family who say, well, why don't you just go and get a job? Just go and get a job, Craig. And there's a part of you that longs for stability. And there was a part of me that was like, Craig, you have to from Hampton University. Go and get you a job and go sit down somewhere and just make this art. That artistry stuff was cute, but then the universe always sends you little tools and keys and omens is what I talk about.
Omens, yeah.
Omens being those things that are foreshadowed, little signs along your path to let you know you're going in the right direction. And so there were little omens that would come. So I released my first book. I was 36. I was writing it at 35, and I released it at 36. They would just say, "Oh my God, you're so behind schedule. You're so behind schedule." But then there was an omen. I was tinkering around on YouTube one day, and I saw this video about Toni Morrison. And it was an interview with Toni Morrison, and she was talking about her first book being The Bluest Eye, and she was 35 when it published. It was like the world just opened up. I was like, oh, it's not too late. You know what I mean? So there were always like little things like that that kind of let me know, no, you just keep going. We got this, you know?
Yeah.